And good evening, everyone. I'm Brandon Redmond here with you from SWATChasers.com, bringing you our inaugural beta version of our SWATcast. And basically, our SWATcast is going to hopefully be a daily thing that we start as of next Monday, July 25th. We're just kind of giving this a test run to see how it works tonight. But the SWATcast will feature a prevalent weather event that's taking place each day somewhere across the country, whether it be severe weather, a heat wave, hurricane, anything that's inclement that's going to impact some portion of the United States. And today, obviously, the big story across the United States is the heat wave that continues to take hold across a large portion of the nation. We're going to talk about that heat wave and talk about what's causing it and exactly why it's so unique. First off, though, Tuesday evening, here's your temperatures, and they are hot. We have 90-degree readings basically from Canada all the way down to the Mexico border and taking shape across a large portion of the nation, even some 100-degree readings down here in Texas, Kansas, and Oklahoma. And this is just a very significant heat wave, something that we haven't seen across the United States in several years. The other big story with this heat wave is the humidity. Generally, when we get a ridge or a massive heat wave that takes place in the summer months, we don't have to deal with a lot of moisture and high dew points because generally they mix out, which means that we get lower humidity rates. That is not the case with this heat wave. We have dew points climbing into the 80s across a large portion of the northern plains and Midwest, humidity levels above 70%, as we have moisture feeding in from the Gulf of Mexico and very light winds at the surface, which is doing little to help us out mix these dew points down. And what that means is that not only are we dealing with these high temperatures, but we're dealing with extremely high heat index readings across a large portion of the country, climbing well above 100 degrees. Anytime you get dew point readings 80 degrees or above, it is just downright miserable. You can go outside and literally wring the water out of the air. And we have dew point readings 80 degrees or higher across a large portion of the country, from North Dakota, South Dakota, into Minnesota, all the way down into the Ohio Valley. The winner tonight, though, is just southwest of Minneapolis, where we have an 83-degree dew point reading. In fact, Minneapolis itself broke the record for the highest state dew point earlier this evening of 84 degrees, which is actually higher than most of the readings that we get in the tropical environments of the equator. So it is an extremely humid air mass, and that is particularly one of the reasons why this is such a dangerous combination. So you ask why we have this heat wave taking place across the United States. It's because of a heat ridge, or a ridge that's built into the jet stream. And basically what's happening is high pressure is dominating the weather here in the central part of the United States. And that's causing this jet stream, as it dips into the west coast, to rise rapidly to the north into Canada. And that means the weather systems are tracking well north of most of the United States. Generally, we're going to get some weather systems that try to dive southeast on what we call the periphery of the ridge, or the ring of fire. And generally that takes place right in this area between the jet stream and the high pressure system. And that's why portions of Wisconsin, Michigan, and into Ohio have gotten thunderstorms the last couple of days. But generally, with a ridge in place, the main story is the heat. The heat, the high pressure, and the very dry weather. And most of us here in the Ohio Valley, besides portions of Ohio, have been extremely dry. And that also goes for most of the central plains into the Midwest. A ridge often occurs during the summer when the jet stream shifts north, as strong high pressures develop across the plains and across the Midwest. A very hot air mass will often lead to ridging. Since air is often sinking within a ridge, they tend to bring warmer and drier weather. Like I said, we generally get some thunderstorms riding this periphery of this ridge, but generally this is a very hot and dry air mass, and it shifts to the east very gradually as the jet stream starts to kink out ever so slightly, and we're hoping that may happen this weekend. So we have that hot dome of air in place that continues to take shape across the nation. Excessive heat warnings, heat watches, and heat advisories for a large portion of the Midwest. And of course, remember, drink non-alcoholic fluids, lots of water, stay hydrated, check on the elderly and the pets, and if you don't have to be outside, don't. I'm Brandon Redmond with your SWATcast.